Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Mueller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Future Proof, the podcast where we decode how founders, leaders, and execs are working smarter by using systems, AI, and automation. If you're looking to future-proof your business, you're definitely in the right place. And before we dive in, for everybody who wants to know what we do, if you're a founder, leader, C-suite exec who's feeling the pressure to grow faster with leaner teams, we're constantly developing cutting-edge AI micro solutions for specific problems and tasks. Last week alone, we helped a client's SDR team save over 35 hours a week because of some of the grunt work they were doing. So if you just want to have a quick 30-minute call, no pitch, we don't never do that. If we can help, we're going to do that. The links will be in the show notes. But let's get to today's guest and our episode today. I'm joined today by Chris Carter from AppRoyo. Definitely an IT solution that we need to jump into. But Chris, thank you for spending the time and taking the time to talk with us today.
Hey, I appreciate it. I love this activity. This is the stuff I love to talk about every day.
I love it. This is going to be so natural. All right. So the first thing is, let's talk about your background, right? I mean, you have your hands in tons of stuff. Let's talk about your career background, kind of the highlights. What I call your founder's journey, and then we'll jump into AppRoyo.
You got it. I first founded a company when I was in high school. I created business cards for people that were little plastic business cards, the old school laminate. That was my first foray into being a founder. Well, then I went off to Georgia Tech with my Apple IIe and my Commodore VIC-20, and I knew I wanted to play with technology.
The engineering school of all engineering schools, right? Yeah.
Yes, sir, it is. Amen to that. Go Tech, go Jackets. One of the things that I had when I went, I created my first program while I was there. It was just little seagulls flying across the screen. I put it in a cassette tape. For those young kids that don't know what a cassette tape was, we used to put music and code on there, and our girlfriends would yell at us for using their mixtape all the time. And I got it. But then I was lucky enough, I got an internship at Coca-Cola, CCE. They were going through a major migration of SAP from R2 at the time to 3. And I was an intern, and I was really good at what I did. They liked me and they asked if I wanted to come work for them. I ended up leaving school after it and taking a position with SAP, finished that one, started traveling the world to do these massive migrations. And then I got sick and tired of working for the man. And I started my own companies. And 4 SAP companies later, I have AppRoyo, but then I have ancillary companies around it. Mugato AI, which does nothing but AI support services for companies who are in the ERP space. So if you're on SAP or Oracle or Workday, Worksoft, and those two, that's part of it. Then I've got Charging Bunny, which is an all natural EV charging solution for companies who, like I have a Tesla, our school has it, and we wanted to be able to do a little bit where I could take all that data, play with it in my AI solution, Overwatch, and then be able to, of course, the only way that we get any power for those systems is strictly from the sun. It is strictly 100% solar-based, and we sell the power back, if there's any at the end of the day, back into the grid. We never take from the grid. We always give to the grid. So that was kind of cool. And then my wife and I bought a bar. What guy doesn't want a whiskey ball, right?
There's not a guy that I know that doesn't want to own a pub or a whiskey bar, no doubt about it.
I highly recommend all of you to not do it. It's crazy what goes on with staffing and with people, but at least I got 100 bottles of great bourbon and whiskey on my whiskey wall. More than anything.
I love that. Yeah, so there is a silver lining there, right? Yeah. Selling software, I would imagine, is a lot easier than managing a staff at a bar.
SAP software, AI software, cloud software, any of those are so much easier than managing individuals. And I got to be honest, we use a tool there called Toast, which is a cloud-based tool. I would love to see them. I've actually sent them some notes saying, hey, you could really use AI inside your tool. Let's do some chat bots. I'm more than willing to help. They never respond back to me, but I see things in their tools that would really be a benefit to bar owners, restaurant owners, anybody that uses that system leverage on a date on taking customer orders.
Oh, I'll bet. Absolutely. Yeah. So,
Cool.
all right. So you are a serial entrepreneur. I love it. You have all kinds of companies. Let's just talk about. Let's start with one. Let's talk about AppRoyo. Why you started it? What your vision for it is, and where you see it going.
So I started it back in, I was literally drinking a bottle of scotch with a vice president of SAP. We sat outside of my fire pit. I was disenchanted with SAP a little bit. I was disenchanted with life. I had closed down a company that was part of the SAP ecosystem. And so I took 2 years and I worked for a company in New York. And I literally said, you know what? I'm just going to relax. I'm going to work for them. I'm going to support them globally. And he came over with a bottle of scotch. We sat outside and he goes, look, you need to get back in the game. This is what's going on. We're doing in-memory computing now. We're leveraging this thing called HANA. I said, well, that's good. They named it after my dog.
I've heard of HANA. I know. Yeah.
Yep. So we finished that up. And by the time that night finished at about 2, 3 in the morning, you finish a full bottle of scotch and you're just brainstorming ideas. And Michael is great at that. That's why he's part of my advisory board. I said, I can do this. So I literally, between that evening and 3 days later, I had negotiated with SAP to go to Waldorf, Germany, have a conversation with them, then fly cross country from Germany to Palo Alto, California, meet with their team there. We were able to get a SAP startup focused program partnership out of them, which means we were one of the first 20 companies to be given a partnership just for HANA and to be able to have conversations around. This isn't like PwC or IBM. No, these were mid-market. This was Hasso's little group. So we got to meet with Dr. Plattner and he worked with us. And I literally took that and I went with it. And so we walked into Sapphire, which is the largest SAP event of the year. It's every year in a couple weeks. And we went down there and we were walking around like we were the prize chicken at a chicken cutting fence. And we were the cock of the walk. Yeah. We would walk in everywhere with Hasso. We would have conversations. We'd be meeting with teams. Companies would be asking us, well, what do you do? And that was it. That was our first foray. And from that point, we just took it and ran with it. I took some of my cloud technology. I took some of the database technologies. We merged them together and started helping companies literally right out of the box. And now we've grown to 173 staff members globally, offshoots of separate companies with Mugato AI for our AI Overwatch tool that manages, monitors, and supports companies. And literally the AI component of it just really helps companies understand what they can do with their data, what AI is important. It's kind of like when we were talking before we hit the record button. What does AI really do? If you're only using ChatGPT or Grammarly, you're not using AI.
Exactly.
We mandate activities for customers, for partners, there's so many different components you can do. Get out there and use it for much more. Hell, you and I talk. I've got 11 different tabs open on just one of my Google Chromes right now. And it specifically says AI tools. And there are actually 13. I'm sorry, I forgot to count Sintra. 13 of them up there. But it's just AI-based tools.
Right. Because it makes you more productive. It makes you go deeper into all your topics. I mean, the use cases are endless. But to me, that is how everybody should be operating today.
Amen. I break it up into 2 segments. You want to do, say you're a partner or you're a company that's out there doing sales and marketing activities to do coaching, or there's 2 pieces. You've got your sales and marketing over here. You're using your Gammas, you're using your chat hubs, you're using ChatGPTs, you're using your DeepSeeks, you're in videos, you're using all of that. Make sure you use Hootsuite, making sure you're using Bitly's, and make sure you're also using HubSpot. So you got all that from a sales and marketing activity, and that will go great. And then you bring in Sintra on top of that, which has got their 11 little people that helps you, and they all integrate. Well, then on the technology side, we mandate all of our developers have to run their code through applications to validate their code. We will force developers to do that. I'm actually giving presentations around the globe this year. One of my presentations, which has been very popular, is why AI is the death, and I'm going to stress that, is the death to the junior developer.
It is. I couldn't agree more. That's what Copilot, when they did the Stanford thing, that's where the name came from. And all the senior developers that used AI as their junior developer, Copilot, knocked it out of the park, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. And that's exactly what it is. And people are scared I'm like, if you're a junior developer right now, you need to learn other activities and you need to get up to that senior level and project. If you're a project managed developer and you can bring that lower level down and that's what you're going for, oh, you're a game changer. You're the guy I want. I'll pay you 175 a year instead of paying multiples at 70, 80, 90 sitting in your.
Because why? Because they've leveled themselves up much faster than any normal developer could, right? Because they leverage the tools and the frameworks that AI is going to do for them.
Yes. Once you get that framework in place and you level yourself up, now you're of value to me. You're of value to not only myself, but you're of value to yourself. And what you.
So for all the leaders and CEOs and execs right now that are listening to what Chris is saying, please cut this snippet out and send it to your CIO, CTO, head of tech, right? Your whole development team. This is what every development team should be implementing immediately.
Correct.
Absolutely. And they're not.
They're
not. They're still, Steve. I mean, Chris, I'm sorry. I was just thinking of, you just reminded me of something. But what I was saying is I'm watching a couple of my current clients still building manual regression testing, right? Not using AI. And I've had guests on like you that are like, look how easy you could do this, right? There are AI platforms that will build your regression tests for you and run them. Right. And then you think about what it does to levels up and frees your QA team to actually do real stuff like end user stuff. Come on.
I'm working at a company right now to do pin tests, automating the entire pin test process. Remember how long that would take us?
Oh yeah.
My God, it was brutal. Well, I'm sitting here talking with somebody about it. I said, well, we could automate that. And we could run that. Let's run that through a scenario. So we literally had to come up with our super user, and then we had to come break it down. And you got to come up with all these different components of how that person will work. But once we had that, oh my God, it took us half a day to get that all broken up and print. And then we ran a test scenario inside the data center. Game change right there. And now they're going to go to market with it.
It's phenomenal. Like, to me, Chris, like some of the, like, we almost need to do a separate one where I just kind of pick your brain and teach the CIOs and CTOs about what they need to be doing, because I feel like a lot of them are still operating like, one, they have all the time in the world. One, and the second one is I tell them exactly what you just started with your tabs for sales and marketing, your tabs for tech. But we haven't even hit the other departments, right? HR should be doing the same thing. Operations should be doing the same thing. And this is why I say AI is not an IT function. It's an everybody function.
Everybody business function inside that organization. I don't care. Take it outside of tech. They don't need to be the ones to run it. Maybe install it, sure, make sure the right data is going. But they do not have to be the ones to run it. Let your people. Let them play out.
And with the new memory upgrades, can you imagine like how deep you can go now? Right? Let alone deep research, but the memory upgrades where it can know all your different chats. Think about that when you add your emails in, it knows all of your communications.
Yes.
Yeah.
So think about this, the difference between Quora, ChatGPT 4.0, 4.1 now, and DeepSeek. DeepSeek is working really well on lower grade technology.
Yeah.
To the point where it's one of the things that I focus on when I work in my Mugato AI thing. Be specific. Small language models. You're not going to boil the ocean with a large language model. You need granularity. Focus on what you want at that endpoint, and then let's work backwards. But I talk about it in another presentation. Small language models, not large language models. Let's stop boiling the ocean. You need specific details. Let's start finding those specific details. And now all of a sudden, IBM came out with a small language model the other day. I was like, you bleepity bleeps, you still have.
Yeah, right. But you're exactly right. I think people think if I just throw everything at an LLM, that I could solve all problems. I'm like, no. What you just said is what people are missing, is how to implement AI in different ways for different purposes to solve the problem at the best way.
Get into that granularity, and that's going to be of service to you.
Yeah. Chris, so tell me about what you're seeing in the industry, right? What you're seeing on the ground across all of your companies, but especially across the ERP landscape, and where do you see things going?
Yeah, great question, because you brought up the point a little bit earlier, how CIOs and CTOs are not moving as fast. Where I find that to be the case is the old guard. the old school men and women who are still out there. I'm 56. It's those individuals who are like, you know what? I can't get fired for bringing in IBM. I can't get fired for bringing in one of the big fours. They're not
Right,
willing to.
McKinsey or BCG,
Yes.
yeah.
And so you're starting to see, but you're seeing this younger generation of CIOs and CTOs who are in their 30s and maybe some 20s that are like, are you kidding? We're going to save on budget. We're going to save on headcount. We're going to do this. We're going to get the stock price up. And when that stock price goes up, I'm going to move on to my next gig because I just sold all my stock that you gave me at 5 times X. And I'm on to my next gig because I'm going to do the same thing over and over again. So you've got that thing going. What I do see when the older generation, they're moving on. I spend a lot of time in the SAP or the ERP ecosystem.
Yeah.
We call ourselves graybeards for a reason. Those graybeards do not want to learn this. They don't want to do the upgrade cycle. They don't want to do the management. They don't want to. They're happy right here. If they're in their 50s, they're either retiring early or they're trying to find a company that's not moving to the next system, and then that company is moving on. So we're having a staffing issue right there with that area.
Yeah.
The companies that I'm dealing with organizational change management, OCM, they do not want to upgrade in the least. And these individuals do not want to touch any net new technology. So those are the problems that I'm seeing right now on the ground, unfortunately.
So let me piggyback on that because I think what you're saying, there's even more to it, right? Is that as I think about that, and I know the influx of PE money that is going across, it's got to be changing their model and their thinking because it's not going to be the same timeline. It's not going to be the same return timeline or the same metrics because of AI. And if they have that old guard, they're not going to have the leeway, right, going forward. So what do you think the fallout's going to be?
Well, it's interesting you talk about PE groups because I've been talking with several of them about ingesting our Overwatch tool to all of their portfolio companies, saving them millions of dollars on the backside. You've already bought these companies. Now let's right size them. Let's upgrade them. Let's get them on AI tools. Let's get them ERPs up and going at the next level. Let's save you those dollars so you can now flip this company in that 3-year portfolio window, maybe 5 if they're really going long. But if you've got one firm I just talked to yesterday morning, they've got over 400 companies that they are working with in one way, shape, or form, maybe 100% to 20%, 50%. I said, you give me every company that's running SAP software in that group, and I named 5 of them right off the bat. I said, I know them, and them. Give me all of them. I will save you millions of dollars, make sure they're right sized, and we will take care of all of their SAP and all of their AI, and we'll have everything. They were floored by the numbers I was giving them. Simply floored that we could reduce headcount, save them on the dollars and cents on the backside, and upgrade them to the latest and greatest so they were more optimally used by just one company and one tool. One single solitary tool, Overwatch, that manages, monitors, supports, and upgrades everything about that organization. They were floored. So that's the third PE group we've talked to now in literally the last couple months that we're starting to move our tools into their portfolios.
Well, I think that's great. And I'm gonna want to piggyback later, in a few months and figure out, your impact on that because I feel like their models are now often outdated that they do, and they're bringing all these Ivy Leaguers. They are coming out right with their MBA and they plug into the models. The problem is it's 5 year ago thinking, and it's not what's happening on the ground right now. Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And so it's going to be interesting to watch how this game changes.
It's wonderful to wake up every single morning, put on a cup of coffee, and start reading my emails and see what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt about it. It really, I totally agree with you. It's fascinating to me, but it's really fun to be on the forefront of this disruption because if you understand and not in denial about it, there's so much opportunity. Like this is going to be the biggest disruptor ever is AI, and it's not even close, right? The problem is when you think about the hockey stick, we're already starting the uptick of the hockey stick, and I don't think when we were with the cloud took a lot longer. I tell everybody, this is not the cloud, right? Chris, what do you think?
I agree. This is not the cloud. The cloud is just a lot of bare metals that everybody's put out there. Oh, it's going to go and it's going to be in somebody's data center. I won't have to see it. AI is hands-on daily usage. It is
Exactly.
you being able to write your create a script for your use Chat Hub, have 6 different boxes going at the same time. Create a script for your this or your LinkedIn, or you want to do a video, or you want to do have it created. Pick the best one, mix and match. Then take that and go over to NVIDIA or go over to Gamma or go and this is how I'm going to run it. I'm going to run this scenario for this many days, and I'm going to use these different keywords, and I'm going to have this as part of my Hootsuite. And then from a technology standpoint, I'm going to be running these different transactions. This is what my end users, my super users are doing, putting that into the system. It's fantastic. Hands on again. Cloud made it all disappear. I don't have to work on the cloud because it's just technology that's hosting and running the systems. Some get fixed, okay, we fix it. But 99% of the time, I'm not touching it.
Right.
AI, I get to touch and play with.
Exactly. Steve, Chris, I'm sorry. You just reminded me of a conversation I just had with this guy named Steve, and he had so much similar things that you were saying. And it's just driving me crazy because I don't get enough of this. And I need this kind of thinking, right, in the podcast for founders that don't think like you. And Chris, what you're saying is also so on point because like I talked to a couple of CTOs and CIOs recently, right? And they're like, yeah, but Brent, I was able to, not be a first adopter of the cloud, right? I knew I had a burn-in period, right? But then that conversation, they have that same thinking right now about AI. But the rest of the organization, though, Chris, is saying, oh, by the way, that's an IT function, right? And do you see what I'm saying? Is like, I don't think they think that the problem is the same or the solution's the same or with the adoption rate.
You're right.
How do you coach? Because you're talking to everybody, right? How are you coaching people through that?
I'm telling them that the tool may be picked by IT and the data that you're going to encompass, because you're not going to boil the ocean. You're not going to go outside your walls. You're going to have to keep that in there. You guys may pick that out. But as far as the business units, HR, finance, sales, marketing, technology, the developers, they're the ones that are going to dictate how they're going to leverage that tool, not by AI or not by IT. IT is just going to give them the tool. And I would highly recommend all the business units not necessarily focus on the same tool, because it's different for every group. And there are better tools for every group. Some of them, depending upon the cost structure that you want to use, depending upon how you're leveraging it within your organization, fine. And cross-pollinate the tools. Let everybody have the chance. Hey, I want to use XYZ. You know what? I like the way that looks, but I also just let them do it. But let that be picked. Let the data be sourced from from that corporate repository, because you do need clean data. Because otherwise AI starts making some ideas and things. And do not let it go out into the real world unless you're going to do it from a sales and marketing standpoint. If I'm here, we made a joke. These are all my books. I've got 17 books on technology that I've written, all with a tool called Designer and QA. I go out there and I play and I do the different books and I create them and I build them. Okay, that's taking the data from the outside world and bringing it to me. If I'm doing something like that, I want that because I want to leverage that knowledge. Expedia IO, where it does things on Sales Navigator, and I'm going into LinkedIn and I'm finding people that I want to, organizations that I want to talk to. Sure, that's fine. But as far as the data, I don't want to take my finance data, my HR data, my supply chain, my warehouse data. I don't want to mix those up with outside entities, because then they're going to skew what I'm seeing. And I still have to make sure that data is clean. And that's a lot of problems right there in organizations. I've got one that's got 20 some years of data and a ton of EDI transactions. They have no idea what they're even looking at anymore because they bought so many companies and they refuse to cleanse it during the course of their processes.
And are they thinking about using AI to help normalize and cleanse that now?
Going through that and cleaning up their data, cleaning up the EDIs, cleaning up their data, and we'll have to do some manually because it is some very, very old, archaic systems, but for the most part, we're going to use AI for it.
So, Chris, let me ask you something else. This is another thing that I keep hearing about, the interoperability. One of the biggest things in IT is in any business, is the interoperability and the integrations and the maintenance of those integrations between those systems, right?
Yes.
the API layers, like you did, the EDI transactions. You can go on and on and on, right? Talk to me about how AI simplifies that going forward. Like, I want to give some people some hope.
If you build the proper AI interface to be able to leverage those connection points, so it will and it can go out there and make sure that they are always connected. If there is an issue on the receiver side versus the giver side, how things are moving, it will tell you in advance. That's why we built Overwatch. Overwatch tells you if something is going on the outside in or the inside out. It tells you about databases. It tells you about tools. So leverage AI to give you that knowledge. So you don't have to have staff members hunting and pecking for a little piece of code that is giving up. When somebody breaks something on the far side, it gives you the information. It tells you why it's wrong. And then it shows you how it can show you how to fix it.
Yep. And what you're saying, Chris, is, and I've seen this watching this firsthand, where you have someone that used to get blocked, right, when they didn't know how to fix something. And now they can interface with a model and say, how do I overcome this obstacle without going to someone else in the org, and without just that being a total, showstopper now, right? Like, hey, could you write a script? Could you, there's all kinds of simple things that AI can guide that person through to get over, again, how you get rid of, these bottlenecks faster.
And the cool thing with a customer service, or when you're working in those areas, it's got a repository of knowledge that you keep teaching it. You're always
teaching. And it grows and grows and grows, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Chris, oh my God, I could talk to you for hours. This is, to me, is what I'm trying to highlight this every week on our podcast of showing folks what's possible and how much easier it is than it's ever been. And I think part of it is that old school thinking of like, man, I know that I've seen that problem 100 times. That's hard. It's not as hard now, right? And this is why I think it's a glass half full. This opportunity, like you said, I wake up every day going, what do I get to do next?
Fully agree. That's why I have Silver Valley above me and I've got Rocky Balboa behind me. Because if you dream it, you can do it. And if you're willing to get your butt up off the mat over and over again, you will be able to do it. And that's what we're doing in AI right now. It is thinking up the new things, that's why I decided to go into the small language models. Everybody was doing large language models. I'm like, no, get granular. I want to know the details. Detail oriented. Give me the details. And I kept getting knocked down and knocked down. Hell, even IBM told me at one point, no, everybody wants AI and they want this. I said, no, they don't. They don't
know what they want.
Well, that's true too.
Yeah. They don't know what they want. They think they do, but they need some guidance and some expertise to come in and teach them that. Chris,
all I know is I want whiskey and I want to speak to people and help give them some knowledge.
You've given the users and the audience so many different tips, but do you have a favorite one that you do for yourself productivity-wise?
Productivity-wise, I actually used AI to break out my entire day into blocks. I have a workout block that I do every morning at 6 o'clock. I have a deep thinking block that I do for an hour. I have a mindful minute that I do every afternoon. My lunch break tends to be after everybody else's, like it just popped up on my screen. Lunch break at 1 o'clock. I break those into segments. I have my email blocks in the morning. I have a reading block. And AI broke that all out for me. And I've been using that now for months and I love it because it gives me structure and it helps me with understanding some of the things I do from a day-to-day and who I am at life. Period. Yeah. And then the secondary thing is I will go out and anytime I see an email that I get or somebody talks to me about a new company that's doing this, that I will go out and I will check out the tool. You may not like it. You may say, not for me, not my idea. But you may find one and go, you know what? I kind of like that. Let's play with it a little bit more. Let's see what it does. Let's see if I need it from a technology side, from a sales and marketing, from a finance and HR. And then I will pass it on to some of the staff members in those groups. Say, hey, I found something. If you like it, play with it. If not, don't ever do anything with it again. But always keep testing, trying, and playing. You never know what you're going to find that's going to be successful for you.
Love it. Those are two phenomenal tips. We'll be sharing those out definitely as part of it. Chris, can't thank you enough.
Thank you
for sharing today. I think we're definitely going to have you back because I want to go deep on the small language models with you. So
let's do it.
For sure. Again, love it. We're going to be tracking AppRoyo. We're going to track your AI tool as well. And just honestly, I love what you're doing in the ERP world across the board. And definitely we're going to have to, have a little link to your pub as well.
Hey, there you go. I'll make sure you get that.
Chris, thank you for spending time with us today. We are just eternally grateful that for your insights. I think that there's not enough leaders using AI the way you are, and I think you're giving people a lot of inspiration and hope. So thank you.
Awesome. Glad to be of help. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate it. That wraps up this episode of Future Proof, where we always say future proof what matters in your business and automate the rest. Thanks, guys.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.